You're listening to the AmWritingFantasy podcast. In today's publishing landscape, you can reach fans all over the world. Query letters are a thing of the past. You don't even need a literary agent. There is nothing standing in the way of making a living from writing. Join two best-selling authors who have self-published more than 20 books between them. Now, on to the show with your hosts, Autumn Burt and Jesper Schmidt.
Hello, I'm Jesper.
And I'm Autumn.
This is episode 146 of the AmWritingFantasy podcast, and today's topic is masterclasses and masterminds for authors, and it's actually a topic that we've sort of been sitting on for quite a while, isn't it, Autumn?
It is. We've had this idea and another big idea that kind of goes hand in hand with it. Why we like masterclasses, or at least what the benefit of them are, especially mastermind groups as well. So this will be a fun one to jump into, and I'm looking forward to hearing reader and listener, I should say, reactions, because I would love to know what their take is on masterclasses and all of these things that are out there to learn.
Yeah, and of course we have a bit of what is it called?
Ulterior motive, yes.
That's what I was trying to say, yes, with this one. But that'll become clear in the end. But I think most people can probably guess it already now.
Probably, but we'll see if they're right. We'll let them consider that. We could pull a twist ending. You never know.
Yeah, no, you'll never know. That's right. I've had a bit of a sci-fi weekend this last weekend.
Yeah? Well, I know you were busy over the weekend. You had a lot of refereeing and things going on. I did do that. I refereed 3 matches in the weekend, but then in Sunday evening, I went to watch the new Dune movie in the theater. Oh, you saw it, right? Oh, that's right. Yes, and then I also started watching Foundation on Apple TV Plus. Oh, interesting. Which is also sci-fi. Yeah, that is a huge sci-fi weekend. How are they? How is Dune? Actually, I think for once they have actually succeeded in making a Dune movie. Because I think it works. Okay, good. They've sort of slowed down the pace. It even says in the opening credits, so it's not a spoiler. I won't spoil anything here, but it says in the opening credits, part 1. So it's only going to be the part of the Dune story that they're going to show in this movie, and it definitely ends as well. That it's very clear that there needs to be more movies. Okay. I don't know how many, but this one actually works for once. I mean, they've tried to make Dune before and failed, I think. But this one was good, and the cinematography is amazing. It is so nice looking. Excellent. I'm gonna have to put that one on my list of date nights with my husband if I can find it playing anywhere near us where we're so rural. You should go and watch it for sure. That would be great. And also, if anybody of the listeners, I don't think you have Apple Plus TV, Autumn, no. But if any of our listeners do, then watch Foundation as well. It has a very strong Dune vibe to it, and in terms of cinematography, it looks amazing. And it's so far. I only watched the first episode, I should say, but I actually quite liked it. It's pretty good. So. Yeah, a lot of sci-fi this weekend for me. That's just trying to get out of this world a little bit, weren't you? Very cool. Yeah. I will have to go look those up. I'm good. I actually started a Netflix series that kind of goes along with some of the murder mysteries you and I have been reading, called High Seas. And that's on Netflix. So if you happen to see it, it's fun because it takes part. I think the ship is probably the 1920s era, the Roaring Twenties, and so it's got all that the gorgeous styling and the Art Deco, which is one of my favorite design times. So just gorgeous little elements, and it's a feisty young heroine who, the ship's officer who definitely is kind of interested, and she's just kind of batting him off as they did in the Roaring Twenties, just like, get serious. There's a murder we're trying to solve. So it's really kind of cute and good acting. I think it might be Spanish based, but it's really fun. But besides that, life's been quiet, literally in a way, because you know that I'm partially deaf, and I've picked up a hearing aid this summer, but
I finally decided I love hearing, but it's incredibly uncomfortable. While we're podcasting, I can't have anything over my ear, like, while I have it on. So there's this surgery that I've been contemplating, but I do risky surgeries. I had PRK done on my eyes so that I could go from like seeing 3 inches to 20/20. It was a miracle. I cannot believe that modern science can do such things. And there's something very similar for my ear, and I'm like all for it, except for one thing. There's the nerve that goes for your taste buds goes right over where they need to, do their little finagling. And so there's a chance, me, I'm a foodie, so I'm a foodie. I love food. It's like one of my joys in life. If I can't drink tea, I might as well not get up for the day. Well, just exposing this nerve to light can mess it up. And they're like, usually it's 3 days. Sometimes it's a week. Sometimes it's a couple weeks. In 5% of the cases, it is a long-term, possibly, the rest of your life injury. I'm like, 5%, so that's 1 out of 20 people. This is just the doctor. He's like, I see 5% of my patients have this long-term issue. So 1 out of 20 people walk out of that door and they're never going to taste quite right again. I'm like, that's like saying I don't like my front door and I could get it fixed and have it moved or change my front door, but there's a 5% chance that you're going to destroy the entire house. I don't know if it's worth it.
No.
So I've been sitting here like flipping coins going, trying to think of an analogy going, if I had a scratch on my front door and it really drove me nuts and I hated seeing it every day, would I risk destroying the entire house just to have it fixed? I should probably just suck up the hearing aid. But it hurts. It really hurts.
But isn't the hearing aid also something about getting used to it? Wearing it enough and getting used to it?
I was hoping so, but it's actually the longer I wear it, the worse it's getting. It turns out I have a tiny ear canal. Of course, I've got all these problems. But so actually wearing it makes it feel like you have a major sinus infection that's just like clogging your ear canal. So it's like when I pull it out at the end of the day.
Make it?
If I wanted to pay a lot of money, so maybe if I save up a couple 10, 15,000, I could get something. Okay. It's really expensive, very very expensive. So yeah, I'm on the fence. If any listener out there or someone reading the transcripts, if you cannot listen, has any suggestions, please let me know, because I am on the fence with this one, leading towards sucking it up and not getting it, but. Maybe if someone has had it's called a stapedoctomy. If anyone else has had that and they've had a success, let me know. I need some advice.
All right. Well, that's a call for the listeners. I don't think I can help much on that one.
Fair enough. You don't have hearing problems.
No. Probably other things, but not hearing.
Okay. Fair enough.
A week on the internet with the AmWritingFantasy podcast.
This week I was thinking to keep this section sort of short and sweet by just mentioning that we had a Zoom call with Jason, our Facebook group moderator, last week. And Luke was supposed to be there too. He's the other moderator of the group, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. But it was so great talking to Jason. But the reason I'm bringing it up is basically because the AmWritingFantasy Facebook group has really come a long way since we started.
Oh my gosh. As I told Jason, I remember when it was me and I was inviting a couple of fantasy authors I knew to join it. So he did tell me I should get a pin for being an inaugural member, but yes.
Yeah.
It's not 2 people anymore. It's almost 7,000. It's crazy.
Yeah, we were sort of joking if we would make it to 10,000 before the end of this year, but let's see.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. You never know. I think it slowed down slightly this last month, but it could pick up again. You never know how these things go.
No, for sure not. So so if you, dear listener, have not joined the best writing group on Facebook yet, just search for AmWritingFantasy and you will find us.
It's not just us saying it's the best one, it's the members and the moderators who just absolutely adore it. So that's kind of special.
And on to today's topic.
All right, that was sort of sweet and to the point. So
That's right.
We'll just get right into this main topic of masterclasses and masterminds. But I actually did a bit of digging ahead of this
excellent
episode, Autumn. Do you know when the first mastermind was established?
I have no idea. I'm guessing it's probably, if you're not counting internet-y, I would say it's probably pretty early. But I mean, if you're counting the internet age, I would say probably post 2005.
Right. Yeah, I did some digging, as I said. I think actually there is something about masterminds going on in ancient Greece, but if we just sort of look at it in a more modern context.
Okay.
And I could, of course, be wrong about this. So this is just as far as I could figure out or find out by searching around, right? So I could be wrong. But I think it was actually Henry Ford.
Oh, really?
Because he met formally with like a group of men who did not work for Ford Motor Company. And they met at least once a month, and then they shared ideas and they solved problems and so on. So I think that was actually the first mastermind in modern times.
That makes sense. And there have been, you mentioning that there have been a few notorious as well groups. I believe in like the New York scene, the art scene / writer scene, there were some amazing authors and scientists and minds that would get together and just spill out ideas. I think it is an amazing way of cooking up some really innovative ideas and problem solving.
Yeah, indeed. And later on, Henry Ford was also asked about his secret to his success. And he actually said that this group, his mastermind, was the reason. So I found that pretty interesting.
That is really interesting. I had not heard that about Henry Ford.
Yeah. So I think it can definitely move the needle. I have been part of a few masterminds myself as part of, management groups and so on. And I also find it incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and I've when I was learning to build courses, I was part of a mastermind group there. And so I've been in a couple as well, and they can be, and like you said, work. With work, I had a leadership mastermind course. So that was they're really great, and they can be an amazing way of focused learning as well as coming up with some really great ideas.
Yeah, and I think basically we're just going to have like a general discussion here about masterclasses and masterminds and maybe a bit about some challenges with it as well. At least I have a few notes about that. But I believe what happens a lot to us authors, it's sort of like we have our head down in the daily grind of writing books, and we never sort of stop to consider the options that are available to us. Sometimes we might not even be aware of them, but this is where, like Henry Ford, that we can actually benefit from what others are bringing to the table, because other people will have a different take on a problem you have, or they will just bring some ideas to the table that you hadn't even thought about. And I think that is one of the main benefits probably from the mastermind.
Yes, I agree, because take our Facebook group, the AmWritingFantasy Facebook group. It's really supportive. People ask questions all the time, but the problem is it is nearly 7,000 members, and that we need to have moderators because every once in a while, someone's a little snippy, and in general they're really nice and usually very encouraging. But there's also a huge chance, because you don't know everyone you're talking to misinterpret what's being asked or not to ask it in a way that everyone understands. And I think the mastermind group, because it is a smaller group, it's usually focused participants. I mean, some of the ones I've been in, you had to be vetted so that you kind of fit in with the other people who are there. I mean, obviously, it helps when everyone's an author. So, I mean, therefore, everyone, a fantasy author especially, you got the ground rules right there. But when you have something like Henry Ford had, that's just... it could be this whole intellectual thing where there's a whole bunch of different people from different backgrounds coming together, and you're discussing maybe random things. You kind of want to be vetted, but you get to know people and you get to know their concerns and maybe what they're working on, so that when you ask a question, they're seeing, your lens and your sphere, and they're problem solving for you, not just as like a general, hey, have you tried writing faster? It's much more like, hey, I know you have 2 kids and this doesn't work, but have you tried doing this instead? So that way you might be able to, churn out more words. I just think they're so helpful because I know from my leadership course, I mean, we're still friends. We stayed friends for years, a decade, because it really was a powerful impact to get to know someone that closely.
Yeah, and you touched upon something that I think is important here, because when you are in masterminds or even masterclasses for that matter, we are sort of all like-minded people. And what I mean by that is not necessarily that, like Henry Ford, for example, if we use that example again, it's not necessarily that you have to be in the same industry. You don't even have to be authors, all of them, but in our case it will be. But even if you're not, I mean like-minded in the sense that we all are there because we want to achieve something. You know, we want to move our author business further along the road. You know, right. We want to maybe earn more money, maybe we want to become better at writing, whatever it is, but we are there because we want to learn. And by helping each other, it basically becomes for the benefit of everyone. And of course, some people might think, well, I already know enough. But I think the truth of it is that no, you don't.
Yes.
We can all grow, we can all learn, and that's a continuous thing that will go on for the rest of your life. So for me, joining masterminds, joining masterclasses, it is, there's always something you can take away from those sessions, even if you're already quite accomplished.
Yeah, well, see, I think, to me, I think that's where the master comes in. That wording is when you're still learning and still starting out, like you're still learning like how to write the intro, or maybe you haven't even conquered your first book. You're still learning a lot of stuff, and it's huge and new. That might actually not be the best time for the master class, because you're still absorbing so much stuff that you're kind of figuring it out. But there comes a certain point where you're like, all right, I've written a series, I've written a few novels, I kind of have the marketing done, I've done this stuff, but I know I'm not where I want to be. I have this growth, and there's this kind of gap of what you want to learn, because it's becoming more tailored to who you are and your book and your journey. And nothing else is going to do it, short of paying for a coach, which is very expensive, paying for like one-on-one, or joining a mastermind group where you can have that focus and you're helping others. And usually by helping others, you end up helping yourself, because, oh my goodness, like, I've learned life coaching over the summer. So that really, when you start asking the right questions and you reflect on them yourself, you start solving your own problems really fast. And it's kind of amazing that way. So it becomes this group energy where you're helping each other and you're all excited and you're all really going to push forward. And so, yeah, if you think you'd have nothing else to learn, you probably won't go to a mastermind group and have that energy, because you won't be putting out the energy as well. And if you feel like everything is too overwhelming, you might not be in the right spot for it either yet. You might need to, write a book, tackle some of those big questions that you can just read a blog post for, or take a intro course on writing for, and then maybe you want to level up to the next stage and try a mastermind.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe you can see if I'm right here, but I think that one of the major challenges or major reasons as to why authors do not join masterminds, or not so much masterclasses maybe, because they're not so time consuming, but more masterminds, is the time commitment of it. I think I think a lot of the time people are reluctant to join something like a mastermind because they're afraid that they won't have the time for it, and then they just decide not to. And as I've said in the beginning, right, I mean, I've been part of a few masterminds myself, and of course I can only speak for myself, but I always have found that it is well worth the time that I put into it, because you're going to get so much out of it. And yeah, maybe it does mean that you are prioritizing some of your time or allocating some of your time to the mastermind instead of doing something else. But usually mastermind, they don't go on forever anyway. So it might be like, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, something like that. And you meet maybe once a week, twice a month, something like that. So yeah, you will invest some time in it, but I think when time commitment concerns are the main reason for not joining, I think that's actually a bit of a shame, to be honest.
I agree. And I think it might be good to, let's define masterclass versus mastermind. So a masterclass is usually a single course. I've seen them up to 3, 3 sessions, but it's usually like, it's just a very short, very focused course that, like I said, it levels up. It is advanced techniques. You're not coming in as a beginner, so there's going to be lingo and stuff that you're like, oh, you should know this already. It might be explained, but if you've never written a book and you take a writer's mastermind, or masterclass, you might be a little behind, and you might need to watch it a few times. But yeah, masterclass is usually a very short 1 to 3 sessions, at the most, so an hour to maybe 3 hours. It's not a big time commitment. But a mastermind group, it tends to be more interactive. And like you said, you can meet sometimes twice a month. It doesn't go on forever. It shouldn't go on forever. I was invited to one that had no endpoint and cost a god-awful amount of money. And I kind of cocked my head and said, you're not trying to teach me anything. You're just trying to get me to pay you. And walked away from that one.
Right.
So you should always take everything with a grain of salt. But yes, they should be, to me, it's almost like the life coaching. They should have a definite endpoint, a definite target, a goal that you're going in for, that you want to see happen. And it might be twice a month, and maybe it is once a week. It depends on whichever one you end up being a part of. But as with all things, maybe you won't be writing as much, but when you get out of it, you're going to be writing so much better, faster, stronger. It's going to be worth giving up some time so that when you get to the other side of it, what you're doing with so much more confidence, skill, and knowledge, and with some friends that you're going to still have. I mean, like, I've had a writer's group, and we stayed in touch again for ages afterwards because we really cared for each other. And you keep those friendships going even after the group is officially over.
Yeah, and I want to touch upon that just in a moment. But just to add one thing to what you were saying about the difference between the masterclass and masterminds. The master class are almost always very sort of instructor heavy. It is an instructor led class. So meaning that you have a teacher who is just explaining things. Whereas the mastermind, it also has, but it's not so much a teacher. It's more like a facilitator. There is a facilitator there that will facilitate the conversation within the group. And there will be, at least sometimes, there will be a bit of teaching as well, but it's only a smaller portion of the mastermind. Whereas in the master class, you're basically, even if it's probably virtual in many cases, but you're in a classroom kind of environment, if you see what I mean. Somebody is teaching something. Whereas that's not so much the case in the mastermind. It's more about a group helping each other to become more successful, whatever success then is and means to you as the member of that mastermind.
Yes.
So, but I wanted to get back to what you were saying there, because one of the huge benefits I see is, and it ties in with what you were saying, it's the accountability part. You were saying like you get the friends and you start meeting on a frequent basis, but you have accountability built in.
Yes.
And that makes a huge difference, So you have a mastermind session, you agree some things that you are going to go and do before the next meeting. And that forces you to actually go and start ticking off those things on the to-do list, so that you next time you show up, you actually did what you were supposed to do, because otherwise you're going to get stuck right in the mastermind and you're not going to get much help. Plus, who wants to show up for the next class and say, I haven't done anything of what we agreed I should do? I mean, nobody wants to do that.
No.
So not to say it can never happen, but in most cases, it really helps you to, it's a lot about motivation, I feel like. It's a motivating experience to be part of a mastermind. And maybe that's actually one of the greatest benefits of it, now that I think about it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It definitely, you end up with accountability partners. You want to hold up your part of whatever you're working on or learning or doing. So, you put in the effort. You join a mastermind group when you know you're going to be putting in effort. You shouldn't join it already feeling tired and overwhelmed and everything else, because it's a bit of a commitment, because you're trying to take some pretty good skills and move it to the master level. You're pretty solid intermediate and you want to go to the next tier. You're going to have to put in a very focused, time-intensive, well, not time-intensive, but energy-intensive, mind-intensive. You're going to think about it. You're going to work on it. You're going to have to be accountable for it. So you don't do this when you're like, I want to go on vacation. It's not maybe the best time in your life to do a mastermind, but it does up your skills, I think, a lot. And I agree. You end up, putting in your effort, putting in your part. And so I think when you get done with it, maybe you're not quite as high getting all that same amount of work out, but you're higher than you were when you went in, and you're better at getting your work done.
Yeah, and at the same time, I want to say, be careful that it doesn't become an excuse. I mean, I think you're right in what you just mentioned, Autumn, but at the same time, that can easily be turned around to become an excuse for not joining in a mastermind, right? Like, well, Autumn said that I feel like having a vacation, so now I shouldn't, right? I mean, a mastermind is usually maybe, as I said before, 4, 5, 6 months duration, right? And there will be some point during that period, probably, where you have less energy, or maybe you have something going on or whatever. So I also feel like you might need to push yourself a bit to say, I'll give it a try, right?
Yeah.
And jump into, of course, not if you truly have something in your life that, I mean, I'm not saying that you should push past any like boundaries that you shouldn't.
Right. But keep your health, family first.
Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, if you want to sort of get to the next level, at some point, sooner or later, you have to start investing in yourself and your business, or in your writing skills, or whatever it is you want to improve. But it's just too easy not to. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm always the one who's like, "Ooh, learn something new. Let's go do that." I don't care that I've got, a mountain of things, but I do see what you're saying, and I agree. I do think it's more of a self-evaluation. Maybe you don't think you have the energy, but if you feel static in your writing career, or even if you're looking at master classes anywhere, but if you're feeling stuck or static, or like you're not progressing, things are not going as quickly, or they're just plateaued, even if you don't quite have the energy but you think you have the time commitment, that might be a good indicator to do a mastermind, because being with other people who are excited, and an instructor, or at least a facilitator, I like how you use that word, a facilitator fits very well with a mastermind group. Being with other people will get you the energy to keep going. So as long as you have the time commitment, even if you're not feeling it really good, like you're so excited, like you want to get up at 5 a.m. to go running for half an hour, you don't have to have that level of energy, because if you do, I don't talk to me at 5 a.m. I'm still asleep. So just don't go there. But you just have to have that realization that things are not quite going the way you want them to go. Maybe you're not feeling the writing, maybe you're like about it, you're just like, maybe I'm done, I don't know, I'm stuck. That's probably a really good indicator that it's time to, level up, get into a mastermind group, get the energy, find out where you're stuck, get unstuck, and push through it and come out the other end feeling really awesome. Like you did get up at 5 a.m. and went for a run, and it was great.
Afterwards, it's great. No, but I think, of course, the mastermind should in itself be a good experience as well. It's not like you have to force yourself to it, like you might have to force yourself for exercising. It is in general. Fun. I've always enjoyed the mastermind sessions. They're quite fun. You learn a lot. You get inspired from it. Yeah. So I think in general it's very good like that. And then I was just thinking about something based on what you said, and now it escaped my mind again. Like a puff of smoke.
That's so great. That doesn't usually happen on the podcast, so we'll forgive you this time. But yes.
Okay.
But no, I agree. It is not like exercise. It's more like getting to hang out with some of your favorite people, talking about your favorite subject, and geeking out about it. So if you like getting excited about something. Oh, excellent. See, I just need to talk more. Go ahead.
You just needed to fill the gap, then I
did.
No, but it was because you were talking about getting excited about the writing and so on. But it could also be, of course, that you feel like, I've tried every book marketing trick that I have, I've been able to find on blog posts, on podcast listenings, or YouTube, or whatever. I tried I feel like I tried everything and nothing works. Maybe then as well. It could also be about, I just want to sell more books. That could also be something you could bring into the mastermind and learn from there. A lot of good things can come from it.
Definitely. I think it is it's a little cooking pot, a Bunsen burner and a little crucible. It's a crucible, that's what the word I was trying to find, of just, getting things going and really leveling up your skill to a new level faster than you would be able to do it on your own. And I think that's what's important. That's why you join a group, is because it is sort of like the speed training to get somewhere new.
Yeah, indeed. So I don't know should we get to our ulterior motive now, Autumn?
I guess we've held out long enough and covered the basis of why Masterminds and Masterclasses are actually a really good tool.
Yeah, because, well, the ulterior motive is not that surprising, I guess, but ta-da! It's because we actually want to have our first masterclass.
Yes!
And we actually made it available for sign up right now.
I'm so excited. Not just because I built the website and the registration page, but I'm still excited that I got it done.
Yeah, and so there's a link in the show notes, and you'll get right to the registration page from clicking that. And we have shared all the different, not that much to be honest, but there is the information you need on the registration page. But the masterclass is on fantasy map making.
Yay! And that's what I was going to say. If you weren't going to tell people, I was going to jump in and be like, we have to tell them what this one is about. So this is... This one is fantastic because, well, one, who doesn't love a fantasy map? And two, this is how we met. So I think it's our inaugural masterclass that we're going to be hosting is going to also be like the topic of how you and I actually started talking. So it's going to be so cool. We already geek out about fantasy maps, so.
Oh my god! Yes. What was it? Fun. Was it last week or the week before last that we had the top 10 about maps? I can't remember if it was 1 week or two. Yeah. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I had a
2 weeks back, I think.
Wow. I don't think.
Okay, whatever. But we love fantasy maps, and the good news, of course, is as well that the masterclass is taking place online. It's a virtual masterclass.
So it doesn't matter what country you're in. So that's always important.
It doesn't matter. No.
No.
Of course, there will be a bit about time zones here in the sense that we are running it on the 28th of October.
Yes.
If you're in Europe, it'll be evening time. If you are in the US, it'll be daytime. But the good news is that we are going to record it. So if you sign up and you can't make it in person, that's absolutely fine. We will make a recording available. So, and I think I can promise it's going to be a lot of fun. Don't you agree, Autumn?
I considering I know with the slides and I know the topic, I know it's going to be so much fun. We're going to have a blast. And even though being a masterclass, it is mostly instructor led, we have a ton of questions and some Q&A sessions and polls and surveys. So it's going to be so much fun and interactive. And I don't think people are going to be like, that was an hour. That was like 15 minutes. It wasn't an hour. It's going to be a blast. Yes.
Yeah, and we have purposely made it so that there are some fun things coming in between information. So it's going to be entertaining. And I think it was $38. Was it $38 or something like that? Yes. Wasn't it, Autumn?
Yes, it'll be $38.
$38, yes, and it's not very expensive. No. And what you get as part of that package is as well that once you've signed up for this masterclass, you will actually get access to a second masterclass on a different topic that we're going to have on a later date.
Yes.
We haven't set that date yet, but you will get in as part of the package here to have that included in the price that you're paying. So it's essentially $38 for 2 masterclasses.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
That's actually a really good deal. I've looked at masterclasses. There, even if you go to the masterclass, you learn something from Neil Gaiman. Those are $99. So $38 for a masterclass is for 2 masterclasses is incredibly cheap. So we're maybe being
the other thing is that.
Yeah,
sorry, I was speaking over you there.
That's all right. I said maybe we're being a little too cheap, thinking about $99 to learn from Neil Gaiman, and we're only doing $38 for 2 classes. But I guess we'll go with it because we've already announced it.
We'll go with it. But the thing is as well that we do plan to, at some point in the future, we don't have any dates for anything of this yet, but we do plan at some point in the future to actually run a mastermind.
Yes.
And the thing is that our planning, at least as far as it goes right now, is that we're only going to invite people who actually attended masterclasses to the Mastermind.
Yes.
When the time comes. So that might be another reason why you want to sign up. So you can actually at least put your, tick in the not a tick in the box, but you can put your like ticket in the hat or whatever.
Yes,
whatever
your
you say.
Name in the hat. Name in the hat.
And your name in the hat. Yeah. Well, when we get to the Mastermind, because the Mastermind for sure will only be a very limited audience.
Yeah.
So not everybody will be able to get in. So, but we do tend to add people to a wait list and so on if you don't get in the first time around. But yeah, we'll see about that. The Mastermind part is secondary right now. The main point is that if you want a entertaining, fun, geeking out about fantasy map class, then get signed up for it, and then you're going to get a second masterclass at a later date. And of course, the second one will also be recorded, and it'll be made available as a recording if you can't join in person and all that. So
yes,
that's it.
I want to be a participant. I want to geek out about fantasy maps, but I guess I have to help run the show. But I would sign up for this.
Yeah, you'll be
totally.
At work that day, Autumn.
That's true. Darn it. I can watch the recording later, though. That's okay.
You can, yes. Okay, so next Monday we have our very first critical reading episode. We'll share our thoughts on the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin.
If you like what you just heard, there's a few things you can do to support the AmWritingFantasy podcast. Please tell a fellow author about the show and visit us at Apple Podcast and leave a rating and review. You can also join Autumn and Jesper on patreon.com/AmWritingFantasy. For as little as $1 a month, you'll get awesome rewards and keep the AmWritingFantasy podcast going. Stay safe out there and see you next Monday.